Perfect. All right. Well, I mean, not perfect, but that's what I'm going for right now. I'm going to show you some very common problems. So one of them is very choppy performances, which will happen in the beginning when you're kind of getting used to your sound. You're getting used to your mod wheel. Maybe you're getting a new keyboard or whatever it is. You can get these little choppy things. And that right there is going to expose the samples. And by that I mean it's going to make it very obvious that you're working with samples, because no real orchestra would get an effect that sounds like that. So the way to do it is basically just to either delete the info, so it just becomes a straight line, or just, draw over this general line with, whatever tool you have. Like you have the drawing mode here, which, allows you to draw things. This becomes a stepwise motion, you see. But I prefer to just, delete that, doing it this way. And then we're going to get the shortest line possible, at least in Ableton. Check out what it is like in your DAW. Another problem is this. Same thing, just like too quick and drastic falls. Like this is going to sound very extreme. Stuff like that. So smoothing out these performances is a great way to make it sound more realistic. Maybe I just delete all of this so this is way more of a gradual fall. Maybe these peaks, if they're too sharp like this, can also sound a little bit, sampled. So maybe you round those off a little bit, make them a little bit less extreme. So, and also here at the end, suddenly the samples kind of fall out because I'm going too low on the mod wheel to 0, which some samples will actually stop playing because you have a complete like 0 volume level all the way at the bottom. So that too I'm just going to fix by making sure it never goes all the way to 0, and problem solved. So that's some of the most common problems that you will face when you're using the mod wheel. And other than that, it's more about just like getting used to it, getting lots of practice, because it's a skill like anything else. But I like to perform it while I'm playing because it really affects the energy and the phrasing of everything. And to me, it's an important part of how I record things. Now, let's take this little example right here. I'm just going to move everything we did here a bit further away. And I'm going to play you this, which is with no modulation info, and then we're going to record it with modulation information after. Alright, not very exciting, and I especially want you to pay attention to the last kind of phrase here. Because as you see, there's no modulation info at all here. It's just all, well, there is information to put it somewhere, but it's not changing at all. And that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to start with these chords. I'm going to do what I did here and make this grow and ramp up into a climax at the end. So let's try to do that. I'm going to start all the way at the bottom. Here you see starting fairly quiet and then just growing and growing and growing until the very end. Similar thing I'm going to do with the double bass. And we end all the way at the top, but I'm not going to the top too early, because if I blow all my energy too early, it's not gonna grow for the last 2 measures or so. Let's do the violin melody next. I'm gonna just duplicate that in an octave above as well. Suddenly it sounds like this. The violin's a little bit loud, so I'm just going to pull them down a tiny bit, especially the higher octave. Now let's do the choirs, which is going to be, you know, pretty much the same as the strings. Here, so I'm just like having it very quiet because they're quite overpowering to begin with, which I might actually just take down the volume a little bit in the beginning as well. And then I'm making the modulation just, you know, kind of come in and increase. Let's see here. Where did it go? Here, at the very end, ramping up, like really bringing in the energy in the crescendo of this chord. And then finally, we have the little horn counter melody here as well. Let's just get that one in as well really fast. Similar story, starting very quiet, kind of bringing it in waves louder and louder until the very final climax, just ramping it up into the crescendo of the chord. Now, if you listen to the second half of the first one and the second one, you're going to hear a big difference. Sounds pretty flat and dull. That's a bit more worthy of an ending. Let's hear again. So those are some examples of ways that I use the modulation wheel. And same goes for woodwinds and stuff as well. I'll use the mod wheel to kind of create the phrasing I want. You can see some samples I use the mod wheel more drastically because this one is more subtle, while with the horn, it's a much bigger kind of dynamic range like this. So I wouldn't use that as drastically as with the oboe, which has a smaller kind of dynamic range with the sample library. So it's all about just practicing and finding the way to play each instrument, and you're going to get better and better over time. But hopefully this is shedding some light on some ways that you can use the mod wheel to create more realistic, more powerful, and more evolving mock-ups of your themes. That's all for now, guys. I'll see you later.